A couple of months ago, I posted a video where I actually repasted my RTX 4090. The video will be up in the top right corner if you do want to watch it after this video. But I got a lot of comments of people saying you need to redo your thermal pads. So let's do that today. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Chamber here, and today we will be repadding or replacing the thermal pads on my RTX 4090. Now, as a lot of people may or may not remember, when I did repaste my RTX 4090, I didn't replace the thermal pads. And one thing that kind of sucked with the Gigabyte card is, and this actually does happen on a lot of the newer GPUs I've noticed, it's probably just the thermal pads they're using. You are going to be kind of like ripping the thermal pads, or they're not going to stay together. They're not as tough as they used to. This can affect how good of a mount is, or just kind of like memory temperatures, which with something such as GDDR6X, which the higher end 30 series and the newer 40 series have, which gets a little hot. So we picked up the Thermalright Extreme Odyssey thermal pads. I have 2mm and 1mm. This is what I'm pretty sure is how much I need. These are how big are these? These are 85 by 45 millimeters. This might not cover the whole GPU. If not, that's okay. I'm mostly worried about the VRAM especially. Quick shout out also to Revo in the Discord. He's one of my supporters. He is the one who actually purchased these thermal pads for me. He also picked up a little PC cleaner for me. This has been great. Cleaned out all the dust out of both the PCs I have here. Really nice. Before we actually get into tearing the GPU apart, we are going to be retesting temperatures now just to see what kind of temperatures we're getting. We'll be using 3D Mark Time Spy Extreme at about 70% fan speed, because that's going to be about what you might want to run at before it gets way too loud. We will also be repasting the GPU when we're doing this. We're going to be using KPX. This is the best thermal paste in my opinion. Affiliate links will be down below for all this stuff, so if you are interested in purchasing this, hit that link down below. Especially if you want to buy a 4090, really supports the channel. Let's see what temperatures are like. One important thing before I actually go into like the Time Spy test, I just want to show you. So we'll be using MSI Afterburner to overclock it, maxing out the core voltage. We'll be running 1.1 volts with a plus 1500 on the memory clock, 600 watt power limit, which we're not going to be hitting the 600 watt power limit in this. We will be able to see power draw. As you can see, 70% fan speed. It's not insanely loud either, as you can kind of tell. And then for the core frequency, we'll be running about 3045 megahertz, so plus 165 offset with the Gaming OC quiet BIOS. Now, let's run the test and see what kind of temperatures we're getting. Here we are about 5 loops into Time Spy Extreme. I am going to move this a little bit so you guys can see it. So here we have GPU temperature at about 83.6. This is very high, and then look at that hotspot, dude. 15-degree difference. This is kind of where those thermal pads are going to be noticing here. Memory junction temperature is about 74C. I'm not worried about that one at all. I'm perfectly fine with a 74C hotspot memory junction. The old 30 series used to be like at 100, so this is a lot better. You also, if you're custom water cooling, getting really good thermal pads might actually hurt your memory overclocking. What has been shown is that when GDDR6X is run a little bit too cold, it actually does negatively affect the performance. So there can be some negative scaling with colder memory. Just want that to be known. But we are apparently hitting a power limit, which makes no sense. The max power draw seen was 540 watts, but rail power through the NVDA output was 580, so who knows? Let's tear this thing apart now. Also, we did see significantly downclocking. I can actually show you through here. So if we look at clock speed, it was running about 2790 at that point, where it should be running about 3 gigahertz kind of with downclocking. So hopefully we can get better frequency as well. So let's see. Just so people know, because people on Twitter were getting really mad at my GPU sag, I did actually get a GPU sag rack. It was about $6. It's literally just a piece of metal. Let me show you. Kind of does help a little bit. It's just literally just a piece of metal with a magnet on it. So yeah, it's kind of cool though. Amazon link down below. Yes. Here we have the GPU. I've shown how to tear this apart, but I'm going to show you guys just a little bit better. The most important part is just taking off everything where you see a screw on top, and then you're just going to have to slowly separate it. There are screws right here on the IO shield. These are not needed. If you want to remove them, sure, but they're not going to be needed at all. If you do want to later remove the back plate, you are going to have to take the card apart, and then there's screws, like as you'll see, there's kind of screw heads here. Let's see where else I see one here. This is where you'll see the other side. You'll have to unscrew them on that side, and that is actually how you're going to take off the back plate. But I'm going to get this card taken apart because this isn't a teardown guide, and then we can get to actually repasting and repadding it. Little bit of an update. This is really what I'm pretty sure is just like 1mm pads. So I'll find a use for the 2mm though, but like the 1mm is probably what I'm going to need to use. I'm mostly worried on the VRAM that we've talked about this, then fixing all the broken ones. So yeah, let's just get on to cleaning off it. Also, GPU spread was good, so we're not worrying about that's what's causing the hotspot. So it's been some time, so we definitely replaced the VRAM. Some of these other ones, as you can kind of see, like this one, the lighter pads are the ones that we have replaced. So there actually were some 2mm, so good thing that I did have these. Which ones were 2mm? I need to think. I believe this is a 2mm, I believe. What I did, and I think this one's also a 2. That feels like a 2. There's some of them that like feel a little bigger, obviously they're 2. Definitely though, if you are going to do this yourself, the side with like the grid, put that either on the GPU or this, and when you screw it in, unscrew it, and if that kind of pattern shows up on the other one, boom, you're good. So like for example, this, I've already screwed it in, I've tested it. But as you can see, this little grid pattern here shows up. So this lines up with this right here, boom. So we know it's making contact. Now all I need to do is just apply some thermal paste to the GPU, spread it out, put it back together, and then we can test it. Boom. So we are back into Windows now. I just want to do a little quick sanity check here. I open up hardware info, boom, GPU temps, all this looks fine, so nothing weird coming out with hotspot. This is a normal kind of delta, about 8-ish degrees. So now all we need to do is just open up 3D Mark and see how it performs. Here we are 5 loops into TimesFi Extreme. Once again, we're pulling about 520 watts as of right now, and this is a big deal. So we're running about 2985 megahertz, as you can see right there in the corner. But let's take a look more at the kind of like hardware info. So 77 degrees on the GPU. Before we were hitting about 88. So we're dropping, no, 85. So we got about a 9, 10 C, depending on it, sometimes like 8 C lower temperatures. But look at that hotspot. So we just hit 90 for the first time. But we're getting about 10 degrees lower on the hotspot, which is a bigger deal. And that hotspot delta is a lot better, about 11 degrees. That is pretty typical for a air-cooled card. One thing you might notice, this got a little bit higher here, the hotspot temperature. So I guess now that it's making a little bit better contact, the core is able to kind of move heat and transfer heat a lot better. But I mean, honestly, 76 degrees on these isn't bad at all. And this is also at, what is it, 400, this is 520 watts right now in total GPU power right here. This isn't going to be how you're running in a game, so this should give you very much lower temperatures in the game, which is what I wanted. And that means that you can also not have to run your fans as high. That's an added benefit. You know, lower noise, it's just a little more enjoyable to game with. Definitely, if you have repasted your card before and not getting the wanted temperatures that you are expecting to see, definitely get some thermal pads. They don't have to be these Thermalright pads, which are very in like the high end. They are kind of like, you know, that Cryonaut, that KPX, like the high end kind of version of thermal pads. Definitely think about that. Maybe about 8 watts per meter Kelvin is kind of what I'd go for. These are, I think they're like 14.7, but I will leave links below down to the 1mm and the 2mm. So if you do want to support the channel, purchase using those links down below, as well as some KPX and some other stuff. If you want me to overclock your systems, the link is also down below in the description. But hope you guys have enjoyed. Hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below what kind of GPU you have and if you've done this before or are planning on doing it. And see you guys later. Peace.